My name is Jang Thye. I'm heading a IoT solution center in Fujitsu to help develop solutions in the IoT space. All right, today I think we are starting our focus on smart city solution because I think we want to be in line with the Singapore government who's championing smart nation. And I believe some of you were here earlier in the morning to hear our minister talks about some of the new initiatives that are coming. All right, and I think it's very interesting to hear those initiatives because what I'm going to share with you are some examples of what Fujitsu has done in Japan as well as in other countries. And I would like to take this opportunity to take the mystery out of what smart city is about, all right, and share with you some of the technology areas we actually can use to build our smart city solutions. And I hope that you get a good idea of what these technologies are and understand that how you can be part of this innovation that we are driving globally, in terms of building smart cities for everybody. All right. And then at the end of it all, I would like to invite you to our booth, which is over the other side at the other corner, where you can see some of the technology demos that we have set up to show you some concepts that are possible in smart city scenarios. Okay? So I'll begin with my slides now. Now, what do you understand to be a smart city? Is smart city something that gets built on day one, through a lot of planning, a lot of architecting, putting all the infrastructure in place with all the sensors and all the connectivity on day one? All right. I think what we see is not possible. All right. Most of the time, unless you are building a new city in an underdeveloped country, probably you can build a smart city from day one. All right, you can design the roads, the way you lay out all the land, the way you build your buildings, the way you specify how buildings are to be enabled for smart city, right? Then, yeah, you can build a smart city kind of approach on day one. But what we are seeing is a lot of cities want to become smart, all right? And they are looking at ways and means by adopting some of the technology in data analytics, in security, in sensors, in networking, right, that make the city buzz with intelligence, meaning I can do things that are different from the traditional city. All right. So we think smart city tends to be something that develops over time with political support, all right, to build the social capacity in order to adopt all this new stuff and then solve many of the social challenges, all right. Fujitsu views this as a way of building human-centric innovation. All right, we believe that we want to put technologies into the infrastructure to better the life of people. All right, and not just to building technology to solve technical challenges. Right. So how do we go about building smart city? All right. Now, one way is you follow some standards group. Right, they came up with some kind of framework. All right, I think that if you search on the internet, you will find many different groups trying to do that. Some kind of smart city policies where it tells you how you need to build up, what kind of technology you need to select, what kind of infrastructure need to be built up. All right. So Fujitsu as a company has been involved in many POCs with customers. All right. We have done things like, put sensors with plants. You want to grow vegetables, you put sensors, you look at the soil temperature, you measure the water acidity and so forth, the wind and the air and so forth. We have also put a wearable on a horse on the racetrack. All right, let the horse run around and then see how best to train the horse. Right. We have also put LED lights on streets, all right, even provide color, so that you can have a celebration on a certain day and then have different colors. Now, all these are technologies to build smart cities, all right? So we have done many of these proof of concepts with customers in Japan and other parts of the world as well, all right? So what exactly do we mean when we say a smart city, all right? So essentially, we need to bring people into the picture. It is the people that actually lives in the smart city. All right. One of the fundamental ways to do smart city is provide the data. right? And I think you have seen a lot of governments have done that. In fact, Singapore is also has been doing this for some time, providing a lot of government data that is available for businesses, for consumers to use them. However, we need to take consideration about security. And I think the minister mentioned in his speech as well, cybersecurity is very critical for the protection of the nation. As we open up more data and putting sensors and telemetry kind of technology to collect data, right, we need to be protective of the data as well. And so it also means that data privacy is a major concern for smart cities. Now, what is the market for smart cities? Right? I think eventually every city that has a sizable population will want to adopt smart city because it can improve life, because it can make living much more enjoyable, because it can make business happen faster. All right? So I believe, although there are a lot of data about smart city, it is not a question of how big. All right? It is a question of how soon you should enable smart city. All right? And we believe that with the knowledge of the technology and demystify what exactly all this technology does and how it all works, I think that's the important thing, to spread the understanding and make people learn about smart city. All right? So what does a smart city project looks like? Right? To people like you and I, all right, when we want to live in a smart city, all right, I think it will mean that you want transportation to be seamless. You want to be able to travel from point A to point B as quickly as possible, right? In recognition of whatever seasonal peaks there may be in the transportation system. That's one example of a smart city, all right? Now, in my subsequent slides, okay, there have been many attempts at building smart city projects, all right? I think this one here talks about transportation in South Korea. The next one talks about waste collection, right? Both of these, we have some version of it that we are planning to do in Singapore based on the Smart Nation initiative. And we also have smart buildings, where we start to connect up their building management system to provide a centralized system of managing the information from the buildings in terms of their internal so-called operational technologies. All right? And all these can help to reduce power consumption. Right? Another example given there, all right, which, sorry. Another example here that also use intelligence in the way you control the usage of power so that you can conserve energy. This example shown there is about building a wireless mesh network that is used by police. Now, this is a very specialized network that is required of police. Fujitsu has a version that can be used for any of you for your enterprise. Right? We use the public band, and then we allow you to build it as an ad hoc mesh. Right? We have some samples demo at our booth on this technology as well, where we can quickly build a RF-based mesh network for all your sensor needs. Right? Of course, energy is another example using the LED lights. Right? So this is another effort towards saving energy by enabling use of more efficient types of devices. Right. And in Singapore, we have a Center of Excellence, a cooperation with A-Star, as well as SMU, to apply high-performance computing as some of the social challenges we see here. Right. So one of the example challenge they are looking at is dynamic mobility management. I think in Singapore here, we are all very wary of MRT failures, all right? If there's some fault, it will be impact to your daily schedule because many of us depend on MRT for our transportation. Now, this project is how we can turn negative energy because of congestion into positive energy. So one of the research that our guys have done, all right, we built an app, all right, to help people for optimization. Now, what does this mean? All right, we put in sensor to collect information about congestion. So now when there is a let's say a major event at a certain location, all right? And that event, of course, is at the location served by multiple public transport options, taxis, your own driving, and then buses and trains, all right? Now, when the event ends, you are going to have a congestion. Now, does the transportation system today suddenly just adding more trains to support you, suddenly adding more bus because they know that there is a seasonal event that ended? No. And they can't tell exactly what time this will happen, right? So what we could do is we could put sensors to track the congestion. And when the congestion occurs, we give you offers to go for a haircut, to go Starbucks, to go for coffee, to go for burgers, to go for something, maybe haircut, etc. And then you delay your trip. And we give you some financial incentive, some discounts or vouchers. So would that turn your negative feelings towards the congestion into a positive feeling? And hence affect, the congestion. We will reduce the congestion because people are being sort of like incentivized to move to do something else instead of going to the various transport options. So this is one of the research that we are doing, all right? And we're looking at using this to help in other types of congestion scenarios. Apart from looking at people flow, right, dynamic mobilities, we also look at maritime traffic. I think in Singapore, you probably do not know when something like this happens. Ship near miss or crashes, all right? And we are living in a very busy strait, Strait of Malacca, and then on the other side, a lot of ships crossing through us, all right? And there have been incidents, all right? And a lot of times, the captains are on autopilot, all right? The ship just go based on a certain path. So sometimes they are on collision path. So this is a project that we try to study the pattern of ships by the type of ships and by some past trends. And then we identify potential crash or collisions. So we try to inform the authorities so that we can prevent such an accident from happening. All right, so this is a project that we are doing at the moment as well. Now, who buys smart city? Okay, actually, most of the time we would think the government is the one that actually buys smart city types of systems. Right? So you can see from here some of the examples given in many of the other countries, like Australia, all right, USA, in terms of the United States Department of Transport providing a smart challenge in the transportation space, all right. And then this is Fujitsu Australia working with New South Wales on some kind of transportation strategy as well. Right. So you can see there are a lot of initiatives driven by governments, but I would like to caution that view, all right? Because I think if there are certain entities that own a large physical facility, they are also able to take advantage of the smart city type of technologies, all right? And now let me share what are the technology areas in smart cities, all right? Now I like to say that there are many key technology areas, all right? So what I'm going to go through is to quickly touch on each of these areas to share with you what are the key technology areas and what are the scenarios that they help to cover. Now, data is very fundamental in smart city, all right? We need data to really help provide the insights for all the people who are living in the city to use the services more intelligently, all right? So new tools are required to do all this data processing. I think a lot of data are unstructured, video images, temperature readings, analog readings, and so forth, right? So we need new types of tools to let us be able to see this kind of information. Now, I think the minister mentioned earlier, right? We need to build skills up for Singapore, right? These are the new areas that all of us should get exposed to. We should not be looking things at just from what we are used to, right? We look at things in 2D and maybe even in 3D angle, right? So a lot of information we have here are not based on location, right? More and more, I think we need to understand all these impact in greater ways. Another area that I want to mention about is the semantic modeling, right? We have a lot of data. We are going to have a lot of data in smart city. What does it mean? So a new technology area in the semantic modeling space help us create relationships between this data and lend some meaning towards. So that's also another active area that we want to build solutions with. Security, all right? That's something that's very important. Now, security is not just about having the right policies or the right tools to monitor security and prevent hacking and so forth. We also need to look at adopting new type of security technologies like blockchains, right? So if you understand blockchain, it removes your dependency on a central trusted party so that you can free up interactions among all the various users who are providing services in a smart city, right? So that allows you to have more types of transactions possibility. Security also need to be beefed up in the privacy area. Now we collect more data. We need to make sure nobody abuses the data, all right? Okay, the next issue is interoperability. I think the minister mentioned very strongly, not a single vendor lock-in, all right? I think he mentioned about the stuff that we need to build for smart nation should not be locked in by a single vendor. We truly agree with that, right? We think that you should be built on standards and should support interoperability, right? Exactly what we are proposing here. Analytics, right? It is analytics that gives you the insight to let you drive the business value of the smart city solutions, all right? Now, I think many of you have heard of this, and I think there will be many other speakers talking about such techniques, machine learning, neural networks, and so forth, all right? But what is important here is that it is how you use the analytics that makes the key difference. Now, the example given here is we work with a certain technology vendor to let you have aircon as a service. Now, think about it. In Singapore, every building has aircon, right? And how are the aircon built? Okay, actually, aircon is driven through what we call a chiller plant. There's a chiller plant that cools the air for you, and then there are a lot of pipes that deliver the air to all your levels and rooms in the building. Now, what happens now is because we know special analytics that we can do, we can tune the chiller plant better. We can offer you aircon as a service. Now that is a kind of innovation that we want to look for in smart city applications. All right, we don't want to do it in the traditional old way. Right, we want to do with a bit of data intelligence, we can deliver new capability. Now, of course, in any smart city, you need to talk about IoT, right? Because IoT is where you start to put sensors and then you use telemetry kind of solution to get data and be able to monitor them, right? So you need sensors and you need gateways and network connectivity to get all this information in. Now, the key thing I want to mention is how do you use the data, right? A lot of time people are collecting data for data's sake, right? But I think the important thing is you need to build a digital twin, right? In your IoT application, you will have physical assets or human assets or even animal assets out there. You need to build a digital twin of all of these guys. Then you can have the ability to tune, optimize, and improve whatever you are doing over there, all right? So IoT is very key in providing this capability. Now, of course, you need compute and storage, all right? We can't put every compute power in the cloud just to do this, all right? We need to have edge level analytics. We need to take advantage of new CPU capability like the NVIDIA's GPU, as well as new developments in FPGA that provides a kind of quick analysis that you can apply in real time for the types of smart city scenarios you want to use. And of course, we are seeing cloud computing model as a way to go for IoT because we need to have a shared resource model to support the kind of processing we need. Okay, and last but not least, connectivity. So I think I have listed many connectivity options here, right? We need them, right? We need a different kind of connectivity for the different types of scenarios to support and the cost effectiveness to support them, all right? And in particular, I'd like to emphasize Fujitsu wants to bring in a technology for the ad hoc wireless mesh network, right? To provide on-premise network for sensor collection. Today, many of these are moving towards a service provider model like Sigfox, all right, and LoRaWAN and so forth, all right? And even you are using your Wi-Fi, it's very difficult to cover your whole enterprise premises. We believe we have a technology that can help you implement this coverage quickly. So if you're keen, come and talk to us at our booth, all right? And at the same time, I also want to say that there are many cloud-based platforms to integrate with all these connectivity options. And in particular, for example, I mentioned here Ricoh, which is also a partner that we work with to provide all the services to enable the connections to get all the data from the different types of devices. All right. Now, I've quickly ran through the different types of technology that can help to build smart city. Right? But most important among this is actually how do you have the business drivers, right, to drive adoption, right? And I can tell you, I share with you some of these possible ideas, right, to really drive business to adopt IoT and smart city. Okay, so I don't have time to go through in detail all these possibilities, but I think these are some things that we need to put some of our focus to really understand and be able to advise the users on how they can get business value to the adoption of such smart city technology. Okay, so my concluding slides. Smart cities is here. Right? We don't have to wait, all right? Smart cities evolve, all right, from city, right? So what we need to do is really put in a focus, put in a business idea, and be able to drive the adoption of such business capability, and then we will have smart cities, all right? Smart cities may be dependent on urban sustainability, all right, as a reason, but I think it can also be driven by commercial entities, all right? Commercial entities can come in to provide certain services that leverage the infrastructure and then the data capability of the smart city, all right? And this is something that we can really build in some social innovation, all right? Now, I just want to have one last word, all right, before I end. All right, we have done a lot of POCs around smart city, all right, and in Japan, I think we have many similar challenges in many of the cities in Asia. All right, in Singapore, for example, we have a aging population, and this is an even more serious problem actually in Japan. All right, and for example, in Japan, we tend to have many of our elderlies living alone. In Singapore, we not so bad, all right? A lot of people who still living, elderly still living with their children, but they are mostly not around, all right? So certain innovation can still come in. And I just want to give an example that Fujitsu also have a solution that is able to do some kind of monitoring for such elderlies at their home through audio capability, all right? Okay, so I just hope this session will give you some ideas of what smart city is all about. Some of the technology capabilities we talk about can apply readily for smart city. And I also want to emphasize that it doesn't have to be government driven. Commercial entities could exploit such technologies to build innovative services that can be used in smart cities. Okay, I shall end my presentation here. Any questions?
You said you have solutions from Fujitsu for public safety also. So you have any systems working for band 14, which is mainly meant for this first responders or the public safety?
I can't hear. For bank what?
Yeah, you said you have a couple of Fujitsu modules meant for this public safety purpose. So do you have any modules supporting the band 14, which the LTE band, which is meant for the public safety purpose?
Okay, we don't have that one that is based on the band that you mentioned. All right, but we potentially can work with other partners to look for that solutions for you. Right. The one that I'm talking about is based on a public band, 920 megahertz. All right, because this is typically a band that is allowed by governments to let businesses use them freely, without some kind of administration over them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just curious. Do you have a system whereby you do some kind of detection of hazardous material, such as an explosive or a bodily held weapon by an intended attacker, so that if you have this as a very small device whereby somebody can purchase at a consumer level, maybe that could avert certain dangerous signals. I'm just wondering whether such a thing has been implemented in Japan. And also, for example, in Japan, like Marunouchi or Ginza, the underground city is really huge. So just curious whether do you have something for a consumer navigation walking around those kind of zones? Thank you.
Okay, so for the first question that you posed, there are many industrial control sensors that are able to detect the kind of gases that may be related to those things that you mentioned. All right. So Fujitsu doesn't manufacture those. All right. We are not a chemical industry kind of player. We are IT company. All right. So we might be able to find players who make those sensors, and then we can provide you analytical capabilities to analyze some of these trending of these detection, and be able to advise that maybe something is going to happen based on looking at the trending and the past patterns. All right. Yes, in real time. We can use machine learning to do such detection. All right. Then for the second example, I think the challenge is the ability to have real-time tracking in those underground locations. So I haven't come across anything of that sort in Japan still. Maybe they are developing, I'm not sure, I have to check. But to implement that requires a lot of different types of base stations that are put underground. And you can't use the GPS type because they will be confused as to the ground level and the underground level. So something new needs to be put in place. And the ad hoc wireless mesh technology I mentioned can be deployed in that kind of scenario, because we use a mesh network to link up the network, and I have the ability to put location to the nodes in the RF network itself. So your proximity to the node can tell your location. We can't give you the exact location, but proximity to a certain location of the network itself. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm running out of time. All right. So I thank you all for attending my session.